I like to read old stuff, like I read stuff from the 1800s, and then stuff that was brand new published. I like to read primary sources. I like to see what the newest ideas are. And in the New World, people kept coming back to this guy, Stephen Porges, and Polyvagal Theory. So I bought the book. It's very complicated, and I immediately said, I know somewhere I want to be able to explain this. And I think it has a lot of relevance for what we do, understanding the vagus nerve. Because the way I learned the vagus nerve, the same way you learned it, that it's a parasympathetic nerve, and I learned the autonomic nerve system, it's either on or off. And apparently that's not the case with, at least with the vagus nerve. So I'm going to do my best, because I've given this lecture a few times and I always prepare for it because it's deep information for me as well. I remember stuff easily that I talk about all the time, but I can't tell you all these different sections of the brain unless I happen to be reading about it at that time. So, and if you want to see some easy speech about it, and you Google his name, you'll come to his webpage, and he gives YouTube. He talks about his theory, and it's very understandable the way he talks about it to an easy audience. So his theory, essentially, his research, he links the autonomic nerve system to social environment and behaviors. So he's giving it gradations. It's not a question of on or off. It's on or off, or should I be on? There's sort of a third option, and he substantiates that. He also invents some words. He calls something neuroception, a subconscious system for determining whether there's threat or safety. I already mentioned to you today about that, or the other day about the triggers. Subconscious systems which need to function without your cortical thought. I'm in danger. There needs to be something that short circuits all the cortical thought. Should I run? There needs to be something that sets off like a vigilance detector. There's danger around. My brain has to get ready to function with that without conscious thought necessarily. So the neural system is going to determine if situations, we're dividing into three situations. Is it life-threatening, fight or flight? Or is it just dangerous, but I'm not sure whether I got to run? Or is it safe? Like Forest Harbor to go hotel. And I did add a few other things into the lecture as well. Neuroregulation of heart. Neuroception, Dr. Porges makes up this term for what he's describing. It's how neural circuits distinguish whether circuits or whether situations are safe, dangerous, life-threatening. This is going to be based on your affective experience. Like I go into a situation and I'm looking at your face. In order for me to determine social situation, there's things that are involved with me looking at your face. Does the affective look like you're dangerous? It involves sounds, certain sounds that might be dangerous, facial gestures, your prosody. Prosody is the cadence of your voice. When you're talking to, if I ask you, eat lunch, you're talking to the baby. That's prosody. How you talk, the nature of your talking. Is it dangerous or not? And then social behaviors that we respond to. And this dovetails with Dr. Fields' work too. Maybe things that are wired in our old circuitry for gestures, social behaviors. Are you coming into my territory? Am I safe? So I put in this neuroception versus perception versus reception. So I've talked to you about perception and reception. Reception is raw data coming in. It's just coming into me. Perception is I change it. What do I think it is? When I taught you how to do key lesion, I said it's raw data coming in. Don't challenge it. Just follow it. And he adds this thing about neuroception. So he goes through the embryologic stages of development of the ANS, from higher to lower functioning autonomic nervous system. The lowest animals, they just feign death. There are certain creatures and animals that when danger approaches them, they pretend they're dead. They don't have the ability to do a sympathetic response. They have only an on or off autonomic response, which is coming from an unmyelinated vagus. And that's what it's capable of doing. Shutting the whole system off and pretend I'm dead, that's how I'll deal with danger. And so they shut down. For you to mobilize, for danger to come at you, you to mobilize and go into activity, well then you have an unmyelinated vagus, and then you need to have a sympathetic nervous system to have those two choices. If you have a myelinated vagus, and you have both, part of your vagus is myelinated, part is unmyelinated. Again, he compares this to a kind of an evolutionary thing. Everyone seems to do that in science. That we evolved to have one thing and another thing, another thing. So, the myelinated vagus, this is involved in facial expression, vocalization. You okay? If I'm not clear, you can stop me. You guys don't see this? Question? Okay. So, the myelinated vagus is involved in me reading your facial expression, me listening to your voice, and what he calls a social engagement system. So that's dependent on having a myelinated vagus, which is coming from the nucleus ambiguous. I don't remember where it is in the brain, in the brainstem, and this fosters calm by inhibiting the sympathetic nervous system. So you have an unmyelinated vagus, you can freeze. You have a sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight, and then you have myelinated vagus, which is going to read the social situation and maybe put the brakes on the sympathetic nervous system. I'm not going to run, or I'm not going to attack. I'm going to wait and see what's going on. That's central to this entire lecture, actually. Then there's some other things that he referenced in here, interesting things. When you talk about, someone asked me this morning about communication from the organs. You've heard this thing, the abdominal brain, or the organs telling the brain what to do. Somebody asked me today or yesterday, was it D-Man? No? I mean, like, half the questions I get are from one source. It was somebody here. Anyway, Claude Bernard, 1865, Darwin, 1872. They contributed to these theories that there was a neurophysiology of the autonomic nervous system, that it was organs telling the brain what to do. We don't think that now in the modern world, although Stephen Porges does, and he gives a scientific basis for it. So back in the older times, they thought the heart was an output system for the brain. The brain thought something, and then put it out through the heart, or vice versa. So the heart was capable of indexing sensory processing. We don't know that to be true. This is what Darwin thought, this is what this other guy thought. Meaning that outside information was coming in, and the heart was processing that, and then sending that information to the brain. Like an afferent thought organ. That's the thought. So the heart was a source of afferent stimulation to the brain. We don't believe that. And therefore able to change the psychological state. It is notable, this is probably where we attribute various emotions to the heart, and non-physiologic characteristics to the heart. It kind of goes with that idea, you have no heart, or you have such a big heart, okay? That the heart is this afferent organ. It's become this symbol of all the pictures I'll take for you. We do this. You guys do this one? You know what this is, right? China says. Whatever happened to this? It's gone away. There's a paradox with the vagus nerve. Increased vagal tone produces neurogenic bradycardia. That should make sense to everybody. Vagus is your parasympathetic nerve. We control the heart two ways, right? We can give the slow down system and the speed up system. Two ways to speed up the heart. We could give you atropine, which would block the muscarinic receptors of the vagus nerve, and your heart's going to speed up like crazy. Block the slow down system. Or we could give you isoproternol, and it's going to activate your beta receptors in the heart. It's going to speed up the speed up system. You know what I just did? I made myself 10% more interesting. I just turned it up 10%. Just for you. Decreased vagal tone produces suppression of the respiratory sinus arrhythmia. Respiratory sinus arrhythmia is this. Take your breath in, your heart slows down just a little bit. Take your breath out, it speeds up just a little bit. And that's normal, that's what's supposed to happen. If you have decreased vagal tone, you lose that break, and actually the SA node speeds up a little bit. So it's not an all or nothing response. The vagal brake is a graded inhibition of the sympathetic nervous system. If you didn't have a vagus nerve, the heart would just run away too fast. So you can exhibit bradycardia as a result of social engagement. The vagus nerve can get dampened, and you get bradycardia because the vagus nerve is taken offline. And I already told you what the RSA is. Bradycardia occurs during periods of suppressed sinus arrhythmia. If bradycardia and RSA are both indices of vagal tone, then why do we respond differently? Well, that's polyvagal theory. Polyvagal theory in animals says there are two anatomically based vagal response systems. They're not the same. Your myelinated vagus and your unmyelinated vagus are not the same. The vagal brake, to explain a little bit more clear, I had to go through this. I had to go through this a bunch of times to get it through my own head. You have tonic vagal influences on the SA node. Can you live without an SA node? Yes, you can. You can't live without your AV node. You can live without an SA node. The problem would be increased activity. You would have no ability to modulate that. So the vagus is influencing the SA node. The resting heart rate is substantially lower than if you just let it run away by itself without the vagus. When vagal tone to the SA node is high, the vagus acts as a brake, slowing it down just a little bit, decreased rate chronotropy. When the tone is low, you have no inhibition of the pacemaker, it just runs away. So the vagal brake provides a mechanism to switch between physiologic states. Whether or not I need to run, fight, or flight, or whether I need to hang out and use my social engagement system. And then I put one more slide on it because I think it was a complicated idea. Respiratory sinus arrhythmia. Physiologically, breathing gates the influence of the myelinated vagus nerve. It's the myelinated vagus that does this, which would be your highest evolutionary aspect of the vagus. So when we inhale, the vagus gets slightly blocked. You block the vagus, your heart rate kicks up just a tiny bit when you breathe in. Breathe out, it kicks down. The mechanical change in breathing increases, or we theorize that that's what causes the calming impact and gives us health benefits. So doing things like yoga, Tai Chi, where you're doing purposeful deep breathing, the idea that on-off stimulus, Dr. Porges says, he says that's how we're driving a calming effect from that, and that on-off attenuation. Let's deconstruct the vagus, and we're going to get complicated. Don't worry if you don't get it. I have to dig my teeth in as well. The efferent fibers are coming from two different medullary nuclei. Medulla is your reptilian brain, your survival brain, if you want to do it like that. Like evolutionarily, if you take that theory, you have your reptilian brain for you to survive. You have your limbic system where emotions take place. You have your cortical system where you're now, most of us, thinking. And then your prefrontal cortex where the highest thought processes are happening. The nucleus ambiguus controls the subdiaphragmatic organs. Everything under the diaphragm is from the earlier vagus. It's unmyelinated. This coordinates complex things like sucking, swallowing, breathing, that allows animals to breathe actively and voluntarily. Dorsomedial nucleus ambiguus is also in the medulla. It's dorsal and medial, I suppose. This parasympathetic functions and you get in the GI tract, lungs, and other thoracic abdominal innervations. So the vagus efferents, the effectors. The vagus is going to go out and say do this or do that. It's clustered into different branches for different functions. This is interesting. This I didn't, no idea. 80% of the vagus are afferent fibers. Afferent is taking information from your organs. This goes back to what Bernard and Darwin were saying in the 1800s, that these organs were actually sensing something. Now he's saying it is sensing something. Not theory, fact. 80% of the information is afferent. Vagus is also lateralized. There's a nuclei on the right and the left, and they're not the same. They don't have the same job. We generally think of the body as being bilateral, and your upper motor neurons, left and right, having the same job. So it's asymmetrical and has a right bias, meaning the right has a lot more responsibilities than the left. They have different tasks. The right side is most potent in your chronotropic regulation of your heart, or on right brain bias. The medullary regulation coming from your brainstem is also asymmetrical. The right side has greater control over your physiological responses with emotion. What? Is he on his way out? Is he on his way down? You're feeling so